The Golden State Warriors are without a doubt the most dominant NBA franchise in the past decade. The team rose to prominence mainly through developing its own draft picks and turning them into star and superstar players, with free agency and the trade market playing a much smaller part of their success than with most championship teams. This all changed with the arrival of Kevin Durant, one of the best scorers ever. KD left Golden State after 3 seasons, leaving the Warriors back in the same position they were before signing him. But what if we told you the Dubs are really close to bringing in another all-time great scorer to pair up with Stephen Curry? Today we will take a look at what the James Harden to Golden State Warriors trade means for the franchise. But before we do, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. People thought the NBA was ruined, broken, and no longer fun when Kevin Durant announced his next chapter. He was signing with the Golden State Warriors. And that perception was kind of true, as the Warriors won back-to-back NBA championships. It was only due to 2 very severe injuries to Durant and teammate Klay Thompson that the Warriors weren't able to give a fight and three-peat in 2019, after which Durant left the Bay Area to try and build his own legacy in Brooklyn. But those 3 seasons were absolute hell for any team facing a healthy Golden State. Imagine adding one of the best scorers of all time to a cemented championship squad. James Harden's arrival to the Warriors via trade would be very similar in some aspects. Many people have labeled Harden as the best pure scorer in NBA history. That's a title that was previously given to Durant, but the offensive clinics James Harden has put over the last couple of seasons in Houston have been truly unparalleled. Harden has proven to be the antithesis of modern basketball analytics, as he has managed to remain ridiculously efficient despite a sky-high usage. Harden has also flipped the conception on isolation basketball, long thought to be a thing of the past, and turned it into a heavily efficient offensive system that paid dividends season after season in Houston. When you think about it, there's no player that can be more different to the Warriors' team-oriented and ball movement-happy offensive system than James Harden's ISO-heavy game. Yet, the prospect of the beard arriving to the Warriors is as interesting and exciting as ever. There's no other way to put it. James Harden is the most prolific isolation scorer in NBA history. This past season, Harden averaged 1.12 points per isolation play. That mark was only 3rd among players with at least 50 isolation possessions, behind Gordon Hayward's 1.15 and DeMar DeRozan's 1.13 points per ISO play. But it's worth noting that Hayward and DeRozan had a total of 54 and 195 isolation plays respectively in the entire season, compared to Harden's 956. Yes, that's not a typo, and you heard that right, 956 isolation plays in one season. That's about 14 per game. In 2019, Harden led the league with 1.11 points per ISO play on 1,280 isolations. In 2018, Harden averaged 1.22 points on 719 ISO plays. Long story short, this man has mastered the art of scoring efficiently out of high-volume isolation plays and excels on 1v1 situations. But how do you make this fit into the Warriors' ball movement offense? Golden State can't force Harden to change his approach to the game of basketball. If isolation basketball has worked for him over a sustained period of time, logic tells us there's no reason why he should stop. And logic is exactly right, because it's much easier for the Warriors to adapt to Harden than for Harden to adapt to the Warriors. And this doesn't have to do with Harden being an egomaniac that refuses to adjust to a proven championship system. The reason the Rockets never amounted to much success in the playoffs was due to the fact Harden was never surrounded by the right talent. When you run heavy isolation systems, you need a lot of floor spacing and teammates that are capable of making things happen if the ISO gets shut down. And there's perhaps not a better place in the league for Harden to land than in Golden State if his isolation-heavy game is meant to be a success. The main question here is, will Stephen Curry be relegated to a role player? Not really. As much as Curry thrives with the ball in his hands, and as magnificent of a spectacle as it is watching him break down defenders or come off screens and shoot off-balance threes, he may actually be the player who benefits the most from Harden's arrival. We already saw Harden is able to coexist with a ball-dominant point guard in Russell Westbrook. To provide some context, Harden led the league with 956 isolation plays in the 2019-20 season. The second place, Russell Westbrook, who had 424 despite playing in the same team as Harden. Westbrook's efficiency was a far cry from his backcourt mates, though, as Russ only scored 0.87 points per ISO possession. And besides, Russell Westbrook's inability to space the floor was the main reason that duo failed. There was only so much Harden could do in the NBA playoffs when he was being doubled and Westbrook was left wide open in the perimeter. Teams literally didn't care about leaving Westbrook alone because Harden is so dangerous in isolations that they would rather double him and dare Westbrook to shoot threes. But will defenses be as willing to double Harden on a team filled with amazing shooters, and most specifically the best shooter in NBA history? Also, let's not forget, Russell Westbrook is mostly useless without the ball in his hands. If you go back and watch clips of James Harden ISOs in the Rockets, chances are Westbrook is just standing in a corner doing nothing. Literally, that's what happens when he doesn't have the ball in his hands. Now, Harden deserves some criticism on that front as well, as he has been rather passive in situations where teams are denying him the ball. He just isn't a good off-ball player, and neither is Westbrook, so it wasn't a surprise to see that duo implode. But we ask once again, what would happen if you pair Harden with the best off-ball player in NBA history? That's exactly what makes Stephen Curry as dangerous as he is. You could argue Curry is more dangerous without the ball in his hands than he is when he has it. Golden State loves running off-ball screen actions for him, and Curry has developed into a really good cutter himself. That's why when Steph runs around a screen trying to get open in the perimeter, defenses go crazy and collapse. Don't forget, Harden is a really good passer himself, and he even led the league in assists in 2017 before fully committing to ISO basketball. Can you imagine if Harden continued running his isolation plays, aided by Stephen Curry's gravity, the immense basketball IQ of a Draymond Green, and the lob threat that a young James Wiseman poses? That would once again break the league. And the best part about this is that the Warriors' culture will likely ease Harden into a more team-friendly game approach. That doesn't mean he's quitting from ISO basketball, but that his new teammates will provide him the opportunity to ease a huge burden off his back. If things aren't going his way, he can always let Curry run the show and get back into groove by playing in the Warriors' freelance offense for a couple of possessions. One of the biggest reasons Harden has been unable to achieve major success in the playoffs, besides getting matched up and eliminated by the Warriors multiple times, is the fact that his team's offense was heavily predictable, as he was always far and away the most reliable scoring option. That won't happen when you have a former two-time league MVP and scoring champion by your side, and when you play for a coach that maximizes everybody's strengths. Don't let critics and doubters fool you. A Stephen Curry-James Harden partnership in Golden State will mean game over for whoever steps in front of them. What do you think of the fit between Stephen Curry and James Harden? Could this pairing and the entire Warriors team get through the tough Western Conference and win a championship? Tell us in the comments down below, and once again make sure to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching another Swish Central video, and join us next time for more NBA basketball content.